The gun pressed against Lena Cross's spine felt colder than the marble floor beneath her knees. She'd come looking for her sister. Instead, she found Adrian Voss, the man whose name made millionaires sweat and politicians disappear. His casino wasn't just underground. It was a tomb dressed in velvet and gold, and she'd walked straight into it. "Your sister sent you to me," he said, his voice like silk wrapped around a blade. "Did she tell you why?" Lena's hands trembled. The answer was in his eyes, dark, merciless, and somehow waiting. She'd been sold. But by who? If you want to see how Lena survives the deadliest game of her life, stay until the end. And don't forget to hit that like button and comment with your city so I can see how far this story reaches around the world. The key arrived on a Tuesday. No note, no explanation. Just a small brass key wrapped in black silk sitting in Lena Cross's mailbox like a whispered secret. She'd turned it over in her fingers for 3 days, feeling the weight of it, the wrongness of it. The engravings were intricate. Serpents coiled around a crown, their eyes set with tiny rubies that caught the light like drops of blood. Ava had been missing for 2 months. The police had stopped returning Lena's calls after the first week. "Your sister is 26 years old," the detective had said, his voice flat with disinterest. "She has the right to disappear if she wants to." But Ava wouldn't just vanish, not without telling Lena. They'd survived too much together. Their mother's overdose when Lena was 12, the foster homes that followed, the aging out of the system with nothing but each other and a shared studio apartment in the worst part of the city. Ava was reckless, yes. She chased thrills like other people chase paychecks. But she always came home, until she didn't. The key had arrived with a return address that didn't exist, a street number that landed in the middle of the harbor. Lena had stood at the water's edge that morning, staring at the waves, wondering if this was Ava's idea of a sick joke, or a cry for help. It wasn't until she'd shown the key to Marcus, her only real friend and a low-level hacker who owed her 3 years' worth of free website designs, that everything changed. "Jesus Christ, Lena." Marcus had gone pale the moment he saw it. "Where did you get this?" "My sister sent it. Your sister is either insane or suicidal." He'd pushed the key back across the table like it might bite him. "That's an access key to the Obsidian." "The what?" "The Obsidian Casino. It's not on any map, not in any directory. It's a ghost. But people talk about it, the kind of people who know better than to talk too loud." Marcus leaned in, his voice dropping. "It's owned by Adrian Voss." The name had meant nothing to Lena then. She'd stared at Marcus, waiting for context. "Voss controls half the underground economy on the East Coast," Marcus continued. "Gambling, smuggling, information. If it's illegal and profitable, he owns a piece of it. And the Obsidian? That's his fortress. No one gets in without an invitation, and no one who crosses him gets out." Lena's stomach had twisted. Why would Ava send me a key to his casino? Maybe she didn't send it. Maybe someone else did. But the handwriting on the envelope had been Ava's, looping and chaotic, the way she'd written since they were kids. Lena would recognize it anywhere. So here she was, 3 nights later, standing in an alley that reeked of piss and rotting food, staring at a rusted metal door that didn't look like it led to anything but rats and regret. The address Marcus had tracked down from the key's serial number had brought her here, to a condemned building in the warehouse district, where the streetlights flickered like dying stars, and the only sound was the distant wail of sirens. Lena pulled her jacket tighter against the October wind. Her fingers were numb as she pulled out the key. For a moment she considered walking away, going home, forgetting the key, forgetting Ava, forgetting the gnawing certainty that her sister was in trouble. But she couldn't. She'd never been able to walk away from Ava. The key slid into the lock with a soft click. The door swung open on silent hinges, revealing a narrow staircase that descended into darkness. No lights. No sound. Just the smell of old concrete and something else. Something expensive. Perfume. Cigar smoke. The faint mechanical hum of ventilation systems. Lena's heart hammered against her ribs. She pulled out her phone, turned on the flashlight, and started down. The stairs went deeper than they should have. By the time Lena reached the bottom, she'd counted 83 steps. The air had changed, cool and filtered, with a subtle scent of leather and tobacco. The concrete walls gave way to dark wood paneling, and the narrow staircase opened into a hallway lined with crimson carpet so plush it swallowed the sound of her footsteps. And then she heard it, music, low and sultry, the kind that belonged in old movies about dangerous men and the women who couldn't resist them. The hallway ended at another door, this one glossy black with gold handles shaped like serpents. Lena pressed her ear against it. Voices. Laughter. The clink of glasses and the soft shuffle of cards. She pushed the door open. The Obsidian Casino was nothing like she'd imagined. It wasn't gaudy or loud. It was elegant in a way that made her feel like an intruder, like she'd stumbled into a world where people like her didn't belong. The ceiling soared 3 stories high, painted midnight blue with constellations mapped in actual diamonds. Chandeliers dripped crystal light over roulette tables and blackjack dealers in tailored vests. Beautiful people in expensive clothes moved through the space like they owned it, laughing with the kind of ease that came from never having to worry about rent or grocery bills. Lena stood frozen in the doorway, suddenly aware of her thrift store jeans and scuffed sneakers. She didn't belong here. This was a mistake. She turned to leave. "Miss Cross?" The voice came from behind her, smooth and cold, like water over stones. Lena spun around. The man standing there was tall, dressed in a black suit that probably cost more than her car. His dark hair was swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble. Sharp cheekbones, a jaw that could cut glass, and eyes so dark they looked black in the low light. He was beautiful in the way that predators were beautiful, sleek and dangerous and utterly still. "I've been waiting for you," he said. Lena's mouth went dry. I think there's been a mistake." "No mistake." He stepped closer, moving with a grace that made her think of wolves circling prey. "You're Ava Cross's sister, and you're exactly where you're supposed to be." Fear shot through her like ice water. She backed up a step. "Where's Ava?" "Not here." "Then why did she send me that key?" The man's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Did she? Are you certain?" Lena's hand moved to her pocket, where her phone sat useless. No signal this far underground. She glanced at the door behind her, calculating the distance. Could she run? Would she make it? "Don't," the man said quietly. The word wasn't loud, but it stopped her cold. "You won't reach the stairs, and even if you did, I have men at every exit." He tilted his head, studying her with an intensity that made her skin crawl. "You came here looking for answers, Miss Cross. I'm offering you the chance to get them, but you'll have to walk deeper into the trap first." "Who are you?" "Adrian Voss." The name hit her like a fist. This was him, the man Marcus had warned her about, the man who made people disappear. "What do you want with me?" Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "The same thing you want," Adrian said. "To find your sister. The difference is, I already know where she is." He extended his hand toward her, a gesture that looked like an invitation but felt like a command. "Come with me, Miss Cross. Let's talk about Ava, about why she ran, and about what she traded to stay alive." Lena stared at his hand. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but the way he'd said it, what she traded, made her stomach turn, because she knew, suddenly and horribly, what he meant. Ava had traded her. "If I go with you," Lena said slowly, "will you tell me the truth?" "I'll tell you everything." Adrian's dark eyes glittered. "But I promise you won't like it." She took his hand. His grip was firm and cold, and the moment her skin touched his, Lena felt the trap close around her. Adrian led her through the casino, past tables where fortunes changed hands with a single card flip, past a bar where a woman in a red dress laughed like she didn't have a care in the world. No one looked at them. No one seemed to notice. They walked through a side door into a private hallway, then into an elevator with mirrored walls. Adrian pressed a button marked with no number, just a symbol, the same serpent and crown design from the key. The elevator climbed. Lena watched their reflections, her small and out of place, him tall and perfectly composed. He hadn't let go of her hand. "Where are we going?" she asked. "My office." "Why?" "Because this conversation requires privacy." Adrian glanced at her, his expression unreadable. "And because the moment you walked into my casino, you became a person of interest. There are people here who would kill you just to send me a message. So until we've had our talk, you stay close to me. Understood? Lena yanked her hand free. You don't own me. Not yet. The elevator doors opened. But your sister tried very hard to make sure I would. The office was massive, all dark wood and floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the city skyline. Lena realized they must be at least 20 stories up, hidden inside what the world probably thought was an abandoned building. Adrian's desk sat at the far end of the room, flanked by bookshelves and a bar cart with crystal decanters. He gestured to a leather chair. Sit. I'd rather stand. Suit yourself. Adrian moved to the bar, poured 2 fingers of amber liquid into a glass. He didn't offer her one. Your sister came to me 6 months ago with a proposition. She had information, valuable information about one of my competitors. She wanted to sell it. Ava doesn't know anything about people like you. That's what I thought too. Adrian took a sip, his eyes never leaving hers. But she surprised me. The information was good, very good. I paid her well for it. He paused. And then she got greedy. Lena's fists clenched. What did she do? She started selling to both sides, gave me intelligence on my enemies, then turned around and sold my secrets to them. It's called playing the middle, Miss Cross. And it's a very good way to get killed. You're lying. Am I? Adrian set down his glass and pulled out his phone. He tapped the screen, then turned it toward her. This is your sister 3 weeks ago. The video showed Ava sitting in a restaurant Lena didn't recognize. She was laughing, leaning across the table toward a man with silver hair and cold eyes. The audio was muffled, but Lena could make out Ava's voice. He'll never see it coming. Trust me, Victor pays better anyway. Lena's knees went weak. She sank into the chair without meaning to. Victor Voss is my brother, Adrian said quietly. He's also my enemy, and your sister decided to help him destroy me. No, Lena's voice cracked. Ava wouldn't. She did. And when I found out, I gave her a choice. Disappear and never come back or face the consequences. Adrian leaned against his desk, arms crossed. She chose to run, but not before she tried one last play. The key. The key, Adrian confirmed. She sent it to you with a story, didn't she? Probably said she was in trouble, needed your help, told you to come to the Obsidian and find her. Lena said nothing. Her silence was answer enough. She didn't send you to rescue her, Miss Cross. She sent you as a distraction. While I was dealing with you, she planned to slip out of the city with Victor's money. Adrian's jaw tightened. But I've known about her plan for 2 weeks. I let her think it was working, and I waited for you. Why? Lena's voice was barely a whisper. What do you want from me? Adrian moved closer, crouching down so they were eye level. Up close, she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, the faint scar along his jaw. He was even more terrifying this close, beautiful and deadly and utterly without mercy. I want you to help me find your sister, he said. Because despite everything, she's still out there. And as long as she's alive, she's a threat. He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind Lena's ear. The gesture was almost gentle. Almost. You're going to stay here, in my world, where everyone can see you. You're going to smile and play the part of my new associate. And when Ava sees that I have you, she'll come out of hiding. You're using me as bait. Yes. And if I refuse? Adrian's smile was sharp enough to draw blood. Then you're no use to me, and I don't keep useless things. The threat hung in the air between them. Lena's mind raced, searching for a way out, but she kept coming back to the same horrible truth. He had her. She'd walked into his trap, and now the door was closed. How long? She asked. As long as it takes. And after? When Ava shows up? That depends on you. Adrian stood looking down at her with an expression she couldn't read. If you cooperate, if you help me end this, I'll let you walk away. You can go back to your quiet life and forget this ever happened. And Ava? His silence was answer enough. Lena closed her eyes. Her sister, reckless, brilliant, maddening Ava, had sold her out, had sent her into a predator's den to save herself. And now Lena had a choice: become the bait and hope she survived, or refuse and die right here. It wasn't really a choice at all. What do I have to do? She asked. Adrian's smile widened. Smart girl. He pulled out his phone again, sent a quick text. Within seconds, the office door opened and a woman walked in, tall, elegant, with silver hair and a measuring gaze. "This is Celeste," Adrian said. "She'll get you settled. New clothes, new story, new life. As of tonight, you're Lena Cross, my latest acquisition. The world will think I'm grooming you to take over my legitimate businesses, art galleries, real estate, the boring things that keep the authorities happy." He paused. "And in private, you'll be my shadow. Where I go, you go. Who I meet, you meet. You'll learn how my empire works, and you'll wait for your sister to make her move." Lena looked at the woman, Celeste, who regarded her with cool professionalism. "And if I try to run, then you'll learn why people fear me." Adrian's voice dropped to something dark and final. "I don't make threats, Miss Cross. I make promises. And I promise you this. If you betray me the way your sister did, there won't be anywhere in this world you can hide." Celeste stepped forward, extending a manicured hand. "Come along, dear, we have a lot of work to do." Lena stood on shaking legs. She wanted to scream, to fight, to do something other than surrender. But she was out of options, out of time, out of everything except the desperate hope that maybe, she could survive this. She followed Celeste out of the office, leaving Adrian behind. But she could feel his eyes on her back, watching, calculating, already planning his next move. Chat. The penthouse suite Celeste led her to was bigger than Lena's entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, and the furniture looked like it belonged in a museum. There was a bedroom with a bed so large it could have fit 4 people, a bathroom with a tub carved from black marble, and a closet that Celeste immediately began filling with clothes Lena had never dreamed of owning. "Mr. Voss expects you to look the part," Celeste said, hanging up a dress that probably cost more than Lena made in 6 months. "Tomorrow, you'll accompany him to a charity gala. You'll smile, you'll charm, and you'll make the world believe you belong at his side." "I don't know how to do any of that." "Then you'll learn quickly." Celeste turned to her, and for the first time, something almost like sympathy flickered in her eyes. "A word of advice, Miss Cross. Adrian Voss is many things, but he's not needlessly cruel. If you do what he asks, he'll keep you safe. This world, his world, is full of monsters. He's the worst of them, but he's also the only thing standing between you and everyone else who'd like to use you." "That's supposed to be comforting? It's supposed to be true." Celeste moved toward the door. "Get some rest. Tomorrow, your new life begins." She left, and the lock clicked softly behind her. Lena stood in the center of the too-perfect room, feeling like a doll in a dollhouse. She walked to the window and pressed her forehead against the glass, staring down at the city lights below. Somewhere out there, Ava was hiding, planning, waiting, and Lena was trapped. She thought about crying, but the tears wouldn't come. She thought about screaming, but there was no point. No one would hear. No one would care. Instead, she pulled out her phone. Miraculously, it had signal up here, and opened her messages. The last text from Ava was 2 months old. "Missing you, sis. Big things coming. I'll tell you everything soon." Lena's thumb hovered over the keyboard. What could she even say? "You sold me out. You sent me to a monster. How could you?" But she didn't send anything, because somewhere beneath the anger and fear, there was still a small, stubborn part of her that believed Ava had a reason, a plan, that this was all some terrible misunderstanding. That part of her was going to get her killed. Lena deleted the message she'd started and locked her phone. She needed to think, needed to find a way out of this before it was too late. But as she turned away from the window, her reflection caught her eye. She looked small, fragile, breakable. Not for long, she thought. If I'm going to survive Adrian Voss's world, I need to become someone he can't break. She didn't know it yet, but that thought, that moment, was the first step toward becoming someone even she wouldn't recognize. The next morning, Lena woke to find a dress laid out on the chair beside her bed, emerald silk that caught the light like water. There was a note pinned to it in sharp, elegant handwriting. "Wear this. I'll collect you at 7. No, please. No, if you don't mind. Just a command." Lena crumpled the note and threw it across the room. Then she put on the dress. It fit perfectly, which meant Adrian had known her measurements before she'd even walked into his casino. The thought made her skin crawl. Celeste arrived at 6:30 with a makeup artist and hairstylist, both of whom worked in efficient silence. By the time they were done, Lana barely recognized herself. Her dark hair fell in soft waves, her eyes looked huge with the right makeup, and the dress made her look like she belonged in Adrian's world. She hated it. She hated how good it felt to look beautiful. At exactly 7, there was a knock on the door. Lena opened it to find Adrian waiting, dressed in a tuxedo that made him look like he'd stepped out of an old Hollywood film. His eyes swept over her, and something flickered in their depths. Approval, maybe. Or possession. "Perfect," he said. "Shall we?" He offered his arm. Lena stared at it for a long moment before taking it. His muscles were solid beneath the expensive fabric, and he smelled like cedar and something darker. Dangerous. They rode the elevator down in silence. When the doors opened, they were in an underground garage filled with cars that looked like they belonged in a collector's vault. Adrian led her to a black sedan with tinted windows. A driver waited beside it, expressionless. "Where are we going?" Lena asked as they slid into the back seat. "The Rothschild Gala. It's an annual event for the city's elite, politicians, CEOs, old money families who've been running things since before you were born." Adrian settled back against the leather seat, watching her. "You'll meet them all tonight, and you'll make them believe you're mine." "What if I can't?" "Then we'll both find out what happens when you disappoint me." The gala was held at a mansion that made Adrian's casino look modest. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, a string quartet playing in the corner. Lena felt like she'd stepped into a different century, one where people in penguin suits and ball gowns decided the fate of the world over champagne and canapes. Adrian's hand settled on the small of her back as they entered, guiding her through the crowd. People turned to look. Whispers followed in their wake. "That's Adrian Voss." "Who's the girl?" "She's nobody. He'll be bored of her by next week." Lena's cheeks burned, but Adrian seemed unbothered. He stopped at the bar, ordered them both drinks she didn't want, and then turned to face the room with the air of a king surveying his kingdom. "See the man in the Navy suit?" he murmured. "Senator Carver. He's on 3 different crime committees, and he's in my pocket. The woman in red by the window? Margaret Chen, CEO of Chen Industries. She launders money for half the syndicates on the East Coast." His hand tightened on her back. "This is how the world really works, Lena. All these respectable people with their clean hands and dirty money. They're no different from me. They've just learned to hide it better." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because if you're going to survive in my world, you need to understand it." He took a sip of his drink. "And because I want you to see that the line between monster and philanthropist is thinner than you think." Before Lena could respond, a voice cut through the crowd. "Adrian." What a surprise. Lena turned to see a man approaching. Tall, silver-haired, with the same sharp features as Adrian, but twisted into something crueler. She recognized him instantly from the video. Victor Voss. Adrian's entire body went still. "Victor, I didn't expect to see you here." "Clearly," Victor's gaze slid to Lena, and his smile widened. "And who is this lovely creature? Not your usual type." "This is Lena Cross," Adrian said, and Lena heard the warning in his voice. "My guest." "Cross." Victor's eyes glittered with recognition. "Any relation to Ava Cross?" Lena's heart stopped. "Her sister," Adrian said smoothly. Small world, isn't it? The air between the two brothers crackled with tension. Lena felt like she was standing between 2 wolves, deciding which one got to tear her apart first. "Very small," Victor agreed. "Tell me, Miss Cross, has your sister mentioned me?" Lena opened her mouth, but no sound came out. "Leave her alone, Victor." Adrian's voice dropped to something deadly. "She's under my protection." "Protection?" Victor laughed. "Is that what you're calling it? How generous of you, brother. Though I have to wonder, does she know what happened to the last person who trusted your protection?" Adrian moved so fast Lena didn't see it coming. One moment he was beside her, the next he had Victor by the throat, slamming him against the nearest wall. Gasps rippled through the crowd, but no one intervened. They just watched, like this was entertainment. "Touch her," Adrian said quietly, "and I'll kill you. Not quickly, not cleanly. I'll make it last." Victor's face was turning red, but he was still smiling. You can't protect her forever, Adrian. Eventually she'll see what you really are, and when she does, Adrian released him and stepped back. Victor coughed, straightening his tie with shaking hands. This isn't over, Victor said. It never is. Adrian turned back to Lena, his expression unreadable. We're leaving. He grabbed her hand and pulled her through the crowd, past the staring faces and whispered speculation. They didn't speak until they were in the car, pulling away from the mansion. What was that? Lena demanded. What did he mean about the last person you protected? Adrian stared out the window. Victor wants to hurt me. The best way to do that is through the people I keep close. That's why he's interested in you. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting tonight. He finally looked at her, and for the first time she saw something raw in his eyes. Something almost like regret. I'm sorry you're caught in this, Lena, but it's too late to go back now. Victor knows who you are, which means you're in danger whether you stay with me or not. So what do I do? Adrian reached out and cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. The gesture was so unexpected, so gentle, that Lena forgot to breathe. You stay close to me, he said, and you trust that I won't let him hurt you. Why should I trust you? His smile was sad. You shouldn't, but you don't have a choice. He was right, and that was the most terrifying thing of all. The penthouse felt like a gilded cage when they returned. Adrian walked straight to the bar and poured himself 3 fingers of scotch, downing half in one swallow. Lena stood by the window, watching his reflection in the glass. His shoulders were rigid, his jaw tight. Whatever control he'd maintained at the gala had cracked. You should sleep, he said without turning around. Tomorrow will be harder. Harder than being paraded around like your property? Yes. He finished the scotch and set the glass down with deliberate care. Tomorrow, Victor will make his first move. He'll test you, test us. Try to find a weakness he can exploit. Lena turned to face him. What kind of test? The kind that gets people killed if they fail. Adrian finally looked at her, and the exhaustion in his eyes was startling. He looked older suddenly, worn down by years of violence she could only imagine. I need you to understand something, Lena. My brother isn't just dangerous. He's brilliant, ruthless, and he's been trying to take everything from me since we were children. Why? Adrian's laugh was bitter. Because our father left the empire to me. Because I was always better at the game than he was. Because Victor believes power should be his by birthright, and I'm the only thing standing in his way. He moved closer, and Lena forced herself not to step back. He'll come after you now, not because he cares about Ava's betrayal, but because he saw how I looked at you tonight. How did you look at me? Like you mattered. The words hung between them, dangerous and electric. Lena's heart hammered against her ribs. I don't matter to you. I'm just bait. You were. Adrian reached out and touched her face again. That same gentle gesture that felt wrong coming from a man who just threatened to kill his own brother. But things change. People become complicated. Lena jerked away from his touch. Don't. Whatever game you're playing, I'm not interested. It's not a game. Everything with you is a game. She wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold despite the room's perfect temperature. You're using me to draw out Ava. You parade me around to make Victor think I'm valuable. You don't get to pretend it's something more. Adrian studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he nodded slowly. You're right. I am using you. But that doesn't mean I want you hurt. He turned toward the door. Get some sleep, Lena, and stay in this penthouse. Don't go wandering. There are cameras everywhere, and not all the people watching them work for me. He left before she could respond, the door clicking shut behind him with a finality that made her chest ache. Lena stood alone in the too-perfect room, feeling the weight of everything crashing down. She'd been in Adrian's world for less than 24 hours, and already she was drowning. Already she was forgetting what it felt like to be safe. She pulled out her phone and opened her messages again. Still nothing from Ava. No explanation, no apology, no sign that her sister even cared that she'd been sold like livestock. Lena's fingers moved across the keyboard before she could stop herself. I know what you did. I know you sent me to him. How could you? She stared at the message for a long time before deleting it. Because what was the point? Ava had made her choice. And now Lena had to live with the consequences. She changed out of the emerald dress and into the silk pajamas someone had left on her bed. When she finally crawled under the covers, exhaustion pulled her under like a riptide. But her dreams were full of dark eyes and cold hands, and the sound of Victor's laughter echoing through empty halls. Morning came too soon. Lena woke to sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows and the smell of coffee. She sat up, disoriented, and found a breakfast tray waiting on the nightstand. Fresh fruit, croissants, eggs, Benedict that looked like it came from a five-star restaurant. There was another note. Eat. You'll need your strength. Meeting at 10. Lena ate mechanically, tasting nothing. At 9:30, Celeste arrived with another outfit. Slim black pants, a cream silk blouse, heels that would make running impossible. The message was clear. You're not running anywhere. Adrian collected her at exactly 10, dressed in a charcoal suit that made him look like he'd stepped out of a boardroom. But Lena was learning to read the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes constantly scanned their surroundings. He was on high alert. "Where are we going?" she asked as they stepped into the elevator. "One of my legitimate businesses, an art gallery in the financial district." Adrian's hand found the small of her back again, that possessive touch she was starting to recognize. "We're meeting with potential investors. You're going to smile, look beautiful, and let them think you're my protege. And if Victor shows up, he will. That's why we're going." Adrian glanced at her, something dark flickering in his eyes. "I want him to see that you're under my protection, that touching you means war. You're using me as a message." Yes. At least he was honest about it. The gallery was housed in a building that screamed old money, marble columns, brass fixtures, walls lined with paintings that probably cost more than most people made in a lifetime. Adrian moved through the space like he owned it, because he did. People greeted him with a deference that bordered on fear, their smiles tight and their handshakes brief. Lena played her part. She smiled when Adrian introduced her as his associate. She nodded at the right moments during conversations about market trends and acquisition strategies. She pretended she belonged in this world of power and money and carefully cultivated image. But she was watching, learning, cataloging every face, every name, every subtle exchange of power. "You're a natural," Adrian murmured during a lull in the conversation. They stood in front of a massive abstract painting that looked like someone had thrown paint at a canvas and called it art. "I almost believe you're enjoying this. I'm good at pretending." "So am I." He turned to face her, and for just a moment his mask slipped. She saw the exhaustion beneath it, the weight of maintaining control every second of every day. "Do you know what the hardest part of this life is, Lena? The killing?" His smile was sad. "The loneliness. Being surrounded by people who fear you or want something from you, but never knowing if anyone actually sees you." He looked back at the painting. "My father taught me that vulnerability is weakness, that caring about someone gives them power over you. So I built walls, made myself untouchable, and now—" He stopped himself. "Now I'm exactly what he wanted me to be." Lena didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know if he was manipulating her again or if this was actually real. But before she could respond, the gallery's entrance doors opened and Victor walked in. He wasn't alone. Two men flanked him. Expensive suits, dead eyes, the kind of men who killed for a living and slept like babies afterward. Victor's gaze found Adrian immediately, and his smile was razor sharp. "Brother!" he called out, his voice carrying through the gallery. "What a coincidence. I was just telling my associates about your new venture." Adrian's hand tightened on Lena's back. "Victor, still following me around like a lost dog? Still pretending you're better than me?" Victor strolled closer, his eyes sliding to Lena. "Miss Cross, you look radiant. Tell me, has my brother told you about our family history yet? The bodies buried in the foundation of his empire?" "That's enough." Adrian's voice could have frozen blood. "Is it?" Victor's smile widened. "Or have we barely started?" He pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, then turned it toward Lena. "I thought you might want to see this." The video showed Ava again. But this time she wasn't in a restaurant. She was in what looked like a warehouse, hands bound, blood trickling from a cut above her eye. She was crying. Lena's world tilted. "What did you do to her?" "Nothing yet," Victor said cheerfully, "but I will. Unless you do exactly what I say." Adrian moved faster than thought, his hand wrapping around Victor's throat. Where is she? Kill me and you'll never find out. Victor's voice was strained but triumphant. I have people watching her. One word from me and they'll put a bullet in her brain. Let her go, Lena heard herself say. Her voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. Please, she's my sister. Victor's gaze shifted to her, and what she saw there made her stomach turn. Hunger, calculation, the look of a predator sizing up prey. Then here's the deal, sweetheart. You come with me, right now, and I'll let Ava go. You stay with Adrian, and I'll send you pieces of her in the mail. Don't listen to him, Adrian growled. He's lying. Ava's probably already... She's alive. Victor pulled out his phone again, this time initiating a video call. The screen showed Ava in real time, still bound, still crying. See? Very much alive, for now. Lena's hands were shaking. This was it. The choice. Her sister's life or her own. Lena, don't! Adrian's voice was urgent. The moment you go with him, you're dead. He's not going to let either of you walk away. But if I stay, Ava dies. Ava put you here. She sold you out to save herself. Adrian grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. She doesn't deserve your sacrifice. She's my sister. She's a traitor. Lena pulled away from him, her mind racing. Victor was watching them with barely concealed glee, enjoying the show. His men had moved closer, hands inside their jackets where guns were undoubtedly holstered. The other gallery patrons had vanished, probably at the first sign of violence. I'll go with you, Lena said to Victor. But you let Ava go first. I want to see her walk away. Lena, Adrian started. No. She cut him off, surprised by the steel in her own voice. This is my choice, not yours. Victor's smile was triumphant. Smart girl, much smarter than your sister. He gestured to one of his men. Bring the car around and tell our friends to release Miss Ava Cross. Let her run. She won't get far. Adrian's face had gone completely blank, that dangerous stillness that meant he was thinking, calculating, planning. You touch her, Victor, and there's nowhere on earth you'll be safe from me. Bold words from a man who just lost his favorite toy. Victor reached out and grabbed Lena's arm, yanking her away from Adrian. His grip was bruising, painful. Come on, sweetheart. Time to learn what real power looks like. Lena stumbled forward, her mind screaming at her to fight, to run, to do anything except walk meekly into Victor's trap. But Ava's crying face was burned into her brain. She couldn't let her sister die. No matter what Ava had done. They were almost to the door when Adrian spoke. Lena. Just her name, spoken quietly. She turned to look at him one last time. His eyes met hers, and in them she saw something she couldn't quite name. Regret? Fury? Or something else entirely? I'll come for you, he said. Count on it. Victor laughed. By the time you find her, there won't be anything left to save. They walked out into the sunlight. A black SUV waited at the curb, engine running. Victor shoved her into the back seat and climbed in beside her. His men took the front, and then they were moving, pulling into traffic, leaving Adrian and the gallery behind. Lena's heart was pounding so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. Victor was still smiling, watching her like a cat watching a mouse. You're probably wondering if I'm actually going to let your sister go, he said conversationally. The answer is yes. I'm a man of my word, Miss Cross. Ava is, as we speak, being released from her bindings and given a head start. He leaned closer. Of course, I didn't promise she'd stay free, just that I'd let her go. You said... I said I'd release her if you came with me. And I did. What happens after that? He shrugged. Not my problem. Rage flooded through Lena, hot and overwhelming. She lunged at him, nails aimed at his eyes. But Victor was ready. He caught her wrists easily, slamming her back against the seat hard enough to knock the wind from her lungs. Careful, he said, his voice dropping to something cold and deadly. I promised Adrian I'd hurt you if he didn't cooperate. But I can hurt you a lot more if you give me a reason. Lena forced herself to go still, even as every muscle screamed at her to fight. What do you want from me? Information, leverage, entertainment. Victor released her wrists and settled back into his seat. You've been living in Adrian's world for 2 days now. You've seen his operation, met his people, learned his routines. I want all of it. I don't know anything. You know more than you think. He pulled out a tablet and brought up a series of photos. The casino, Adrian's office, the penthouse. My brother is meticulous about security, but everyone has blind spots, and you, Miss Cross, are going to help me find his. The SUV pulled into an underground garage. They got out, and Victor's men flanked her as they walked through a maze of concrete corridors. The building above them was probably something legitimate, offices or apartments or some other front for Victor's criminal enterprise. But down here in the shadows, the truth showed through. They stopped at a metal door. Victor punched in a code and it swung open to reveal a room that made Lena's blood run cold. Concrete walls. A single chair bolted to the floor. A table with instruments she didn't want to look at too closely. "Welcome to my office," Victor said pleasantly. "It's not as elegant as Adrian's, but it gets the job done." He gestured to the chair. "Sit." "No." One of Victor's men grabbed her and shoved her into the chair. Before she could react, zip ties bit into her wrists, securing her to the armrests. She pulled against them, but they only tightened. Victor crouched in front of her, his silver hair catching the harsh overhead light. "Here's how this works. I ask questions. You answer them. If I believe you, we move forward. If I don't..." He reached out and touched the cut on her cheekbone from where he'd slammed her against the SUV seat. "Well, let's hope it doesn't come to that. I told you, I don't know anything." "Then let's start with something simple. Where does Adrian keep his financial records? The real ones, not the sanitized versions he shows the IRS." Lena stared at him. "I have no idea." "Wrong answer." Victor nodded to one of his men. The man stepped forward and backhanded her hard enough to snap her head to the side. Pain exploded across her face, white hot and blinding. "Let's try again," Victor said. "The financial records. Where are they?" "I don't know." Lena tasted blood. "He doesn't trust me. He barely lets me out of his sight." "But you've been to his office. You've seen his personal files." "I've seen paintings and expensive furniture. That's it." Another nod. Another blow. This one split her lip. Lena's vision swam. She blinked away tears and forced herself to focus. Victor was watching her with clinical interest, like she was an experiment he was conducting. "You're tougher than you look," he observed. Ava broke after the first hit, started babbling everything she knew about Adrian's operation. He tilted his head. Of course, most of what she knew was worthless. She was just a middleman, a useful idiot. But you're different. You're living with Adrian, sleeping in his penthouse. He's showing you things he doesn't show anyone. He's using me as bait for Ava, that's all." "Is it?" Victor's smile returned. "Then why did he look at you like the world was ending when I took you? Why did he threaten to come after me, knowing it might destroy everything he's built?" He leaned in close, his breath hot against her ear. "I think my brother made a mistake, Miss Cross. I think he started to care about you. And that makes you the most valuable weapon I've ever had." Before Lena could respond, the lights went out. The room plunged into absolute darkness. Lena heard Victor curse, heard his men scrambling, then gunshots, sharp cracks that made her ears ring, shouting, the wet sound of something hitting flesh. And then silence. Lena's heart hammered in the darkness. She pulled against the zip ties, ignoring the pain as they cut into her wrists. "Hello?" Her voice came out shaky. "Is someone there?" A flashlight clicked on, momentarily blinding her. When her eyes adjusted, she saw Adrian standing in the doorway, gun in hand, blood spattered across his white shirt. Victor's men were on the ground, not moving, and Victor himself was backed against the wall, hands raised. "I told you I'd come for her," Adrian said quietly. Victor's laugh was strained. "You just started a war, brother. We've been at war since the day you tried to take what's mine." Adrian moved into the room, his gun never wavering. "The difference is, now I'm done pretending there's any family left between us. You won't kill me. You need me, my contacts, my resources. I need you dead." Adrian pulled the trigger. The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. Victor crumpled, clutching his shoulder. Not a kill shot. Not yet. Adrian walked past him without a second glance and knelt in front of Lena. His hands were gentle as he cut through the zip ties. "Can you walk?" Lena nodded, not trusting her voice. Her wrists were bleeding where the ties had cut in, and her face throbbed where Victor's man had hit her. But she was alive. Adrian helped her stand, steadying her when her legs threatened to give out. "I'm sorry," he said, and the rawness in his voice made her look up at him. "I shouldn't have let him take you. I should have— You came for me." The word surprised her. "You actually came. Did you think I wouldn't?" I didn't know what to think. Behind them, Victor was struggling to sit up, blood pouring from his shoulder wound. "This isn't over," he rasped. "I have people everywhere. They'll hunt you both down. They'll—" Adrian turned and put another bullet in Victor's other shoulder. Victor's scream echoed off the concrete walls. "Your people work for money," Adrian said coldly, "and I have more of it than you do. By tomorrow morning, they'll all be on my payroll." He looked at Lena. "We need to go, now." They ran. Through the corridors, up a service stairway, out into an alley where a car was waiting. Celeste was behind the wheel, her expression grim. "Hospital?" she asked as they climbed in. "No." Adrian looked at Lena's bloodied face and his jaw tightened. "Take us to the safe house. I have a doctor on call." They drove in silence through the city streets. Lena stared out the window, watching the world blur past, and tried to process what had just happened. Victor's interrogation, Adrian's rescue, the violence, the blood. The way Adrian had looked at her when he'd found her tied to that chair, like seeing her hurt had broken something inside him. "Ava?" she asked quietly. "Did Victor really let her go?" Adrian's expression darkened. "My men intercepted the team that was holding her. She's safe, for now." "Where is she?" "Somewhere Victor can't reach her." He paused. "And somewhere you can't either." Lena turned to stare at him. "What does that mean?" "It means your sister is alive because I'm protecting her, but I'm not letting you anywhere near her until this is over." Adrian met her gaze and his eyes were hard. "She tried to get you killed, Lena. She set you up, knowing exactly what Victor would do. And you still tried to sacrifice yourself for her. She's my sister. She's poison." Adrian reached out and touched her swollen lip with infinite gentleness. "And if you can't see that, then I'll make the decision for you. You don't get to destroy yourself for someone who doesn't deserve it." Anger flared in Lena's chest. "You don't get to control who I see. In my world, I control everything." But his voice was soft, almost sad. "That's what it means to survive, Lena. You take control before someone else does. You make the hard choices. And you accept that the people you protect will hate you for it." The car pulled up to a building Lena didn't recognize, smaller than Adrian's casino, quieter, hidden. They got out and Adrian led her inside, through a lobby that looked abandoned, up an elevator that required a key card to operate. The safe house was a penthouse like the one she'd left, but different. Warmer, somehow. There were books on the shelves, actual books that looked red, photos on the walls, a younger Adrian with people who might have been family before Victor destroyed everything. A doctor was already waiting, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes who tisked over Lena's injuries and got to work cleaning and bandaging them. Adrian watched from across the room, his expression unreadable. When the doctor left, they were alone. "Thank you," Lena said finally. The words felt inadequate. "For coming for me." Adrian poured himself a drink and downed it in one swallow. "Don't thank me. I'm the reason you were there in the first place. Victor would have come after me anyway. Once he knew who I was, I should have killed him years ago." Adrian slammed the glass down hard enough to crack it. "I should have ended this before you ever walked into my casino, before Ava dragged you into our war." "Why didn't you?" "Because he's my brother." Adrian's voice broke on the word. "Because once upon a time, before our father poisoned everything, we were family. And I thought—" He stopped, shaking his head. "It doesn't matter what I thought. I was wrong. And you paid the price." Lena stood and crossed the room to him. Her body ached, her face throbbed. But she needed to be closer, needed to understand. "What happened between you and Victor? What made him hate you so much?" Adrian looked at her for a long moment. Then, like a dam breaking, the story poured out. "Our father built this empire from nothing. He was ruthless, brilliant, and completely without mercy. Victor was the firstborn. He was supposed to inherit everything. But Victor was impulsive, reckless. He made mistakes that cost lives and money. Adrian's hands clenched into fists. When I was 18, Victor tortured a man to death because he thought the man had insulted him. Turned out it was mistaken identity. The man was innocent, and when our father found out, he gave the empire to me instead. How old was Victor? 25. Old enough to know better, old enough to control himself. Adrian's voice was hollow. He never forgave me, never accepted that I didn't ask for this, didn't want it. He spent the last 15 years trying to take it back, and he'll destroy anything, anyone to do it. Including you. Especially me. Lena reached out and took Adrian's hand. He flinched at the contact, like he'd forgotten what gentle touch felt like. I'm sorry, she said softly. For all of it. The life you didn't choose. The brother who became your enemy. The walls you had to build just to survive. Adrian stared at their joined hands. Why don't you hate me, after everything I've put you through? I should. Lena felt tears prick her eyes. I should hate you, but when I was tied to that chair, when Victor was hurting me, all I could think was, Adrian will come. He won't leave me there, and you didn't. Lena. She stood on her toes and kissed him. It was soft and tentative and probably the stupidest thing she'd ever done. But she needed to know, needed to understand if what she felt, this impossible pull toward a man who should terrify her, was real or just trauma and Stockholm Syndrome. Adrian froze for half a heartbeat. Then his control shattered. His hands came up to cup her face, careful of her injuries, and he kissed her back with a desperate hunger that stole her breath. It wasn't gentle. It was need and fear and something darker, something that tasted like possession. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Adrian pressed his forehead against hers. This is a mistake, he whispered. I know. You'll regret it. Probably. I can't be what you need. I'm too broken, too dangerous. I don't care. And she realized with a shock that it was true. Somewhere between the casino and the gala and Victor's torture room, she'd stopped seeing Adrian as just a monster. She'd started seeing the man beneath the armor, the one who'd been hurt and twisted and forced into a life he never wanted, the one who'd walked into hell to save her. Adrian pulled back, his dark eyes searching hers. If you stay with me, this doesn't end well. You understand that, don't you? Victor will come after you again. My enemies will see you as a weakness. Your life will never be safe. It wasn't safe before I met you either. Lena touched his face, feeling the rough stubble beneath her fingers. At least now I know what I'm fighting for. His smile was sad and beautiful and completely without hope. Then we're both fools. Maybe. She kissed him again, softer this time. But I'm tired of running, tired of being invisible. If I'm going to burn, I'd rather do it standing next to you than hiding in the shadows alone. Adrian pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her like he could shield her from the world. And for just a moment, in the quiet of the safe house, with the city lights glittering through the windows, Lena let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, they could survive this. But outside, in the darkness, Victor's empire was already moving, already planning, already preparing for war. And the worst was yet to come. They spent the night in the safe house, but sleep was impossible. Every sound made Lena flinch, the creak of pipes, the distant wail of sirens, the wind rattling the windows. Adrian sat in a chair by the door, gun within reach, watching the shadows like they might come alive and attack. He hadn't slept either. Lena could see it in the tension of his shoulders, the way his eyes never stopped moving. As dawn broke over the city, painting the sky in shades of blood and gold, Adrian's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and his expression darkened. What is it? Lena asked from where she sat curled on the couch, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. Victor's made his move. Adrian turned the phone toward her. The screen showed a news headline. Financial District Gallery shooting. 3 dead. Crime kingpin Adrian Voss wanted for questioning. Lena's stomach dropped. They're blaming you for what happened yesterday? Victor owns half the police force. He's spinning the narrative before I can. Adrian pocketed the phone and stood. We need to move. The safe house won't stay safe for long. Move where? Somewhere Victor will never think to look. He held out his hand. Do you trust me? It was a loaded question. Trust the man who'd used her as bait, who'd killed without hesitation, who lived in a world of violence and betrayal. Trust the man who'd also saved her life, who'd looked at her like she was the only real thing in his carefully constructed empire, who kissed her like she was oxygen and he was drowning. Lena took his hand. I'm still deciding. His smile was brief but genuine. Fair enough. They left through a service exit that led to an underground tunnel system Adrian claimed dated back to Prohibition. The tunnels were narrow and dark, lit only by Adrian's flashlight and the occasional flickering bulb. Lena's heels clicked against wet concrete as they walked, the sound echoing off stone walls that wept moisture. Where do these go? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Everywhere. The city's built on secrets, Lena. Tunnels, escape routes, hidden doors. My father showed me every one of them before he died. Adrian's voice was distant, lost in memory. He said knowledge of the city's bones was the only real power. Everything else could be taken away. They emerged in the basement of an old church, its wooden pews dusty with disuse. Adrian led her through the sanctuary and out a side door into an alley where Celeste waited with a different car, a nondescript sedan that wouldn't draw attention. The house is ready, Celeste said as they climbed in. She looked at Lena with something that might have been sympathy. I've stocked the essentials. You should be comfortable there. Where exactly is there? Lena asked. The last place anyone would look for Adrian Voss, Celeste replied, pulling into morning traffic. Suburbia. An hour later, they pulled up to a modest two-story house on a tree-lined street where kids rode bikes and neighbors waved to each other over white picket fences. It was so normal it felt like a hallucination. You own this? Lena stared at the house in disbelief. I own property all over the city. Most people don't know about this one. Adrian helped her out of the car. It was my mother's. She left it to me when she died. I've kept it exactly as she had it. Inside, the house was frozen in time. Floral wallpaper, family photos on the mantle, a kitchen with vintage appliances that somehow still worked. It felt like stepping into someone else's life, someone normal and happy and untouched by violence. Adrian stood in the living room looking lost, like he didn't quite fit in his own mother's house. Lena watched him touch the back of a worn armchair with something close to reverence. She left when I was 16, he said quietly. Couldn't take what my father was anymore, what he was turning Victor and me into. She bought this place with money she'd hidden away and told me if I ever wanted a different life, the door would always be open. His hand fell away from the chair. I never came. And 3 years later, she died alone. Adrian, don't. He turned away, his shoulders rigid. I don't deserve your pity. I made my choices. I chose my father's empire over her, over any chance at being normal. Lena crossed the room and wrapped her arms around him from behind. She felt him stiffen, then slowly relax into her embrace. You were a kid. You did what you had to do to survive. I was a coward. You were human. She rested her cheek against his back, feeling the steady beat of his heart. And you're still human, Adrian, no matter how hard you try to pretend otherwise. He turned in her arms and looked down at her with eyes that held too much pain, too much history. What if being human isn't enough? What if I'm too far gone to be anything but the monster my father created? Then we figure it out together. Adrian kissed her forehead, gentle and achingly tender. You shouldn't have to fix me. I'm not trying to fix you. I'm just trying to stay alive long enough to see where this goes. She pulled back to look at him. But I need you to be honest with me. About everything. No more secrets, no more half-truths. If we're doing this, whatever this is, I need to know what I'm really up against. He studied her face for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, ask me anything. Ava, where is she really? Adrian's expression hardened. In a private medical facility 2 hours north. She was hurt when Victor's men grabbed her. Nothing life-threatening, but enough that she needs care. I have people watching her around the clock. Can I see her? Not yet. Victor's network is vast. If he traces you to her, he'll kill you both just to hurt me. Adrian's jaw tightened. I know you want answers from her, want to understand why she did what she did. But right now, keeping her isolated is the only way to keep her breathing. Lena's throat burned with unshed tears. Does she know I'm okay? I had someone tell her you're safe. Whether she cares is another question. The words hit like a physical blow. Because deep down, Lena had been wondering the same thing. Had Ava sent her that key knowing exactly what would happen? Had she cared at all that her sister might die? What about Victor? Lena asked, changing the subject before the pain could swallow her whole. You shot him twice. Is he alive? Barely. Adrian's expression was grim. I aimed to wound, not kill. I wanted him to know what's coming, wanted him to feel the fear. What is coming? War. Real war, not the cold standoff we've maintained for years. Adrian moved to the window, looking out at the quiet suburban street. Victor's been building his forces for months. The attack on you, the frame job with the police, it's all leading somewhere. He's going to make a play for everything. The casino, the legitimate businesses, the political connections. He wants to take my empire apart piece by piece. So what do we do? Adrian turned back to her, and the look in his eyes was pure predator. We strike first, hard enough that he never gets back up. Over the next 3 days, the house became their war room. Adrian's people came and went through the back door, men and women with hard eyes who brought laptops and weapons and information. Celeste coordinated it all, her efficiency terrifying in its precision. Lena watched and learned. She saw the scope of Adrian's empire for the first time. The gambling operations, the shipping routes, the blackmail files on politicians and CEOs. But she also saw the legitimate businesses, the charities he funded under shell companies, the anonymous donations to causes his father would have mocked. You're not just a criminal, she said one night as they pored over financial records. You're trying to build something better. Adrian glanced up from his laptop. I'm trying to survive. The legitimate businesses give me cover. The charities buy goodwill. It's all part of the game. Is it? Lena pointed to a recurring donation to a women's shelter. This shelter, you've been funding it for 8 years. That's longer than you've needed the cover. He looked uncomfortable. My mother volunteered there before she died. I kept up the donations in her memory. It doesn't mean anything. It means you're not as heartless as you pretend to be. Don't make me into something I'm not, Lena. I've killed people, destroyed lives. The fact that I write checks to charity doesn't balance that scale. Maybe not, but it means you're capable of more than just destruction. She reached across the table and took his hand. That has to count for something. Adrian squeezed her fingers, then pulled away and went back to his laptop. But Lena saw the way his expression softened, just for a moment. Saw the crack in his armor widening. On the 4th day, everything changed. Celeste burst into the house without knocking, her usually composed face tight with urgency. We have a problem, she said. Victor's consolidating power faster than we anticipated. He's absorbed 3 of your smaller operations and turned half your lower-level people. And he's put out a bounty. On me? Adrian asked calmly. On both of you. 5 million for information leading to your location, dead or alive. Lena's blood ran cold. 5 million? He's serious about this, Celeste continued. Every mercenary, hitman, and desperate criminal in the city will be hunting you. We need to move now. No. Adrian's voice was steel. We move when I say we move. I'm not running from my own city. Then what do you suggest? Celeste's tone was sharp. Because sitting here waiting for them to find you is suicide. I suggest we give them what they want. Adrian stood and pulled out his phone. Set up a meeting with Victor. Tell him I'm ready to negotiate. Are you insane? Lena jumped to her feet. He'll kill you the second you walk in. Maybe, or maybe he'll be curious enough to hear what I have to say. Adrian looked at her, and his eyes were blazing. I'm done playing defense, Lena. It's time to end this. By walking into a trap? By making him think he's won. By getting close enough to put a bullet in his brain myself. Adrian's smile was cold and terrible. Victor wants my empire? Fine. Let him have it. All of it. Everything except the one thing he really wants. Which is? To see me broken. To watch me lose everything and know he's the one who destroyed me. Adrian crossed to Lena and cupped her face in his hands. But I won't break. Not as long as you're alive. Not as long as there's something real in this nightmare I've built. Adrian, please, trust me. He kissed her, hard and desperate. One more time. Trust me to end this. Lena wanted to argue, wanted to tell him this was madness. But she saw the determination in his eyes, the cold calculation that had kept him alive in a world designed to destroy him. And she realized he'd already made up his mind. Nothing she said would change it. "Okay," she whispered, "but I'm coming with you." "Absolutely not. You don't get to decide that. If you're walking into Victor's trap, I'm walking in with you." "Lena? No." She pulled away from him, her own determination crystallizing into something hard and unbreakable. "I'm done being the damsel you lock in a tower for her own safety. I'm done being bait or leverage or whatever role you think I should play. If we're ending this, we're ending it together." Adrian stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time. "You'll get yourself killed." "Then I'll die fighting instead of hiding." Lena lifted her chin. "Make your choice, Adrian. Let me stand with you, or I'll find my own way to Victor and ruin whatever plan you're cooking up." Celeste coughed delicately. "I hate to interrupt, but if we're doing this, we need to move fast. Victor won't wait forever." Adrian closed his eyes for a long moment, his jaw working. When he opened them again, Lena saw resignation and something that looked almost like pride. "Fine," he said. "But you do exactly what I say, when I say it. No heroics, no improvisation. Understood? Understood. And if things go sideways, you run. You don't look back, you don't try to help me. You run, and you disappear, and you live." His voice cracked slightly. "Promise me." Lena wanted to argue, but the raw pain in his eyes stopped her. "I promise." It was a lie. They both knew it, but it was the lie he needed to hear to let her come. The meeting was set for midnight at the Old Harbor Warehouse District, neutral ground that belonged to neither Adrian nor Victor. Celeste drove them in an armored SUV, 2 additional cars full of Adrian's most trusted people following at a distance. Lena wore black, pants, a jacket Celeste had given her with Kevlar sewn into the lining, boots she could run in if needed. Adrian had insisted she take a gun too, a small pistol that fit in her jacket pocket. He'd shown her how to use it, though they both knew if it came to that, they were already dead. The warehouse loomed against the night sky, windows dark and broken, walls tagged with graffiti. Victor's cars were already there, 3 black SUVs parked in formation. His men stood outside, automatic weapons visible even in the dim light. "Last chance to change your mind," Adrian said as they pulled up. "Not a chance." They got out together. Adrian's hand found hers, squeezing once before letting go. They walked toward this warehouse entrance where Victor waited, flanked by his lieutenant and half a dozen armed men. Victor looked terrible. His shoulders were bandaged beneath his expensive suit, and his face was pale with pain and fury, but his smile was triumphant. "Brother," he said, "I knew you'd come. Pride always was your weakness. And overconfidence was yours." Adrian stopped 10 feet away. His posture relaxed despite the weapons aimed at them. "You wanted to talk, so talk." "Talk?" Victor laughed. "No, Adrian, I wanted to watch you grovel, wanted to see the great Adrian Voss on his knees begging for mercy." His eyes slid to Lena, starting with her. "She's not part of this." "She became part of this the moment you cared about her." Victor nodded to his men. "Take her." They moved fast, but Adrian moved faster. His gun was out and firing before Lena could blink. 2 shots, 2 bodies dropping. Then chaos erupted. Adrian's people appeared from the shadows, engaging Victor's men in a firefight that turned the warehouse into hell. Adrian grabbed Lena and pulled her behind a concrete pillar as bullets tore through the air around them. "Stay down!" he shouted over the gunfire. But Lena saw Victor retreating toward the back of the warehouse, saw him pulling out his phone. She knew instinctively what he was doing, calling for backup, or worse, triggering some failsafe that would kill them all. She made a choice. Lana ran, not away from the danger, but toward it. She heard Adrian scream her name, but she didn't stop. She couldn't. If Victor escaped, this would never end. He'd keep coming, keep hurting people, keep destroying everything Adrian had tried to build. Victor saw her coming and raised his gun. Lena threw herself sideways as he fired, feeling the bullet whisper past her ear. She hit the ground hard, rolling behind a stack of shipping crates. "Stupid girl," Victor called out. "Did you really think you could stop me?" Lena's hand closed around the gun in her pocket. Her heart was hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. She'd never shot anyone, never wanted to. But as she peered around the crate and saw Victor's cold smile, saw him raising his weapon toward where Adrian was fighting 3 men at once, she knew what she had to do. She stepped out and fired. The recoil knocked her back a step. The shot went wide, missing Victor but slamming into the wall beside his head. He spun toward her, fury twisting his features. "You little—" Another shot rang out, but this one didn't come from Lena. Victor jerked, blood blooming across his chest. He looked down at the wound in disbelief, then collapsed. Lena turned to see Adrian lowering his gun, his face splattered with blood that wasn't his own. The warehouse had gone quiet. Victor's men were either dead or had surrendered, disarmed by Adrian's people. Adrian crossed to his brother and knelt beside him. Victor was still breathing, but barely. Blood bubbled at his lips as he tried to speak. "Should have killed me years ago," Victor rasped. "I know." Adrian's voice was hollow. "I kept hoping you'd change. Kept thinking maybe there was still something left of the brother I used to know. But you killed him a long time ago, didn't you?" Victor's smile was bloody. "We both did. The moment we chose his empire over everything else." "Maybe," Adrian stood. "But I'm choosing differently now." He raised his gun and fired one final shot. Victor went still. For a long moment, Adrian just stood there, staring down at his brother's body. Then he turned to Lena, and the expression on his face broke her heart. There was no triumph, no relief, just exhaustion and grief and the terrible weight of what he'd done. "It's over," he said softly. Lena went to him and wrapped her arms around him as tightly as she could. She felt him shaking, felt the careful control finally crumbling. He'd just killed his own brother. No matter how necessary, no matter how inevitable, that was a wound that would never fully heal. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Don't be." He made his choice. Adrian pulled back and looked at her, his dark eyes searching. "You ran toward him. After I told you to stay safe, you ran straight at him. I couldn't let him get away. Couldn't let him hurt you. You could have died. So could you." Adrian's laugh was pained. "We're both idiots." "Probably." Lena touched his face, wiping away a streak of blood. "But we're alive. And Victor's gone. That has to count for something." Celeste appeared at Adrian's shoulder, her expression grim. "Police are on their way. We need to clean this up fast." "Do it." Adrian didn't look away from Lena. "Make it look like Victor's men turned on each other, a power struggle gone wrong. And find the evidence he's been using to frame me, destroy it." "Already on it." Celeste hesitated. "And the girl? Ava?" Adrian's jaw tightened. "Bring her here. It's time Lena got her answers." 20 minutes later, the warehouse had been transformed. Bodies removed, blood cleaned, evidence planted. Adrian's people worked with terrifying efficiency, and Lena realized this wasn't the first time they'd done this. Probably wouldn't be the last. A car pulled up, and 2 of Adrian's men helped a woman out. Even in the dim light, Lena would have recognized her anywhere. Ava looked terrible. Thin and pale, her arm in a sling, bruises fading on her face. But her eyes, those were the same. Sharp and calculating and completely unrepentant. "Lena," Ava's voice was hoarse. "Thank heaven you're okay. I was so worried." "Don't." Lena's voice came out harder than she'd ever heard it. "Don't pretend you care. Don't act like you didn't know exactly what you were doing when you sent me that key." Ava's expression flickered. "I don't know what Victor told you, but Victor didn't tell me anything I didn't already know." Lena stepped forward, and she saw Ava flinch. "Good. You sold information to both sides. You played them against each other. And when it all came crashing down, you used me as a distraction so you could escape with Victor's money. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like?" Lena's voice rose, all the pain and anger of the past week pouring out. "Tell me, Ava. Tell me how sending your sister to a crime lord was anything other than a betrayal." Ava's mask finally cracked. "I didn't have a choice. Victor said if I didn't help him, he'd kill me. He said a lot of things. And you believed him because it was easier than taking responsibility for your own greed." Lena felt tears streaming down her face. "I would have helped you, Ava. If you just asked me, if you just told me the truth, I would have found a way. But you didn't trust me. You never trusted me." You don't understand what it's like, Ava said, her own tears starting. To always be broke, always struggling, always watching other people have everything while we had nothing. I just wanted more. I just wanted to matter. Adrian's voice cut through the sisters' argument. He'd been standing back, letting them talk, but now he moved forward. To be seen? To have power for once instead of being powerless? Ava looked at him with something like hatred. You don't get to judge me. You were born into this world. You had everything handed to you. I had a father who beat me when I showed weakness, and a brother who tried to kill me. I had an empire built on blood that I never wanted, and a life where everyone I've ever cared about either betrayed me or died. Adrian's voice was cold. So no, I wasn't handed anything. I survived, just like you're trying to survive. The difference is, I didn't throw my family to the wolves to do it. Ava's face crumpled. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Lena. I never thought... I didn't know Victor would hurt you. I thought Adrian would just... I don't know. I thought you'd be okay. You thought wrong. Lena wiped her eyes, feeling something inside her break and reshaping into something harder. I loved you, Ava. You were all I had, and you traded me like I was nothing. Please, no. Lena shook her head. I'm done. You want to know what it's like to matter, to be seen? Figure it out yourself, because I'm not your safety net anymore. I'm not your backup plan, or your sacrifice, or your sister. Lena, please don't do this. It's already done. Lena turned to Adrian. Get her out of here. I don't care where she goes, as long as it's far away from me. Adrian nodded to his men. They moved forward to escort Ava away, but she pulled free long enough to grab Lena's hand. I do love you, Ava said desperately. I know you don't believe me, but I do. You're my sister. That has to mean something. Lena looked down at their joined hands, the same hands that used to hold each other through foster home nightmares, through their mother's funeral, through every bad day and worst night, and she felt nothing. The love was still there somewhere, buried under all the betrayal and pain, but it wasn't enough anymore. It used to mean everything, Lena said softly. Now it just means goodbye. She pulled her hand free and walked away. Behind her, she heard Ava sobbing, heard Adrian's men leading her to the car, but Lena didn't look back. Couldn't look back. Because if she did, she'd break, and she was so tired of breaking. Adrian caught up to her at the edge of the warehouse, where the first light of dawn was painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Are you okay? He asked. No, but I will be. Lena leaned against him, letting his solid presence anchor her. Where will she go? Somewhere safe. Somewhere Victor's remaining people can't reach her. Adrian wrapped his arm around her shoulders. I'll make sure she has enough money to start over, but after that, she's on her own. Thank you. They stood in silence, watching the sunrise. Around them, Adrian's people were finishing their cleanup, erasing the last traces of the violence that had ended Victor's life and shattered what remained of Adrian's family. What happens now? Lena asked. Victor's dead. The police think his own men killed him, but your empire will survive. It always does. Adrian turned to face her, his expression serious. But I meant what I said before. I'm choosing differently now. The illegal operations, the violence, I'm done with it. It's time to build something that doesn't require blood to maintain. You really think you can walk away from that life? I think I can try, with the right person beside me. He took her hands. Come with me, Lena. Help me build something better. Something my mother would have been proud of instead of ashamed. Lena looked up at him. This beautiful, broken man who'd walked through hell to save her, who'd killed his own brother to end a war, who was offering her a future she'd never imagined possible. I'm nobody, she said. Just a freelance designer who got dragged into a nightmare. I don't know anything about running an empire. You know about survival, about loyalty, about choosing to stand and fight instead of running. Adrian's smile was soft. That's more than most people in my world know. And it's everything I need. What if I'm not strong enough? What if I can't? You walked into Victor's warehouse ready to shoot him to protect me. You faced down your sister and cut her out of your life because she betrayed you. You're stronger than you know, Lena. Stronger than I am in ways that matter. Lena thought about her old life, the quiet apartment, the freelance work that barely paid rent, the invisibility she'd worn like armor. She thought about safety and normalcy and all the things she'd lost the moment she opened that envelope with Ava's key. And then she thought about Adrian, about the way he looked at her like she was the only real thing in his world, about the empire they could build together, one founded on something other than fear and violence, about choosing to live instead of just survive. "Okay," she said. "I'm in." Adrian's smile was incandescent. He pulled her into a kiss that tasted like promise and possibility and the faint copper tang of the violence they'd left behind. When they finally broke apart, both of them were smiling. "We're going to make so many mistakes," Lena said. "Probably. And people will come after us. Your enemies, the law, everyone who wants what you've built. Almost certainly. And we have no idea if this will work. Not a clue." Adrian pressed his forehead to hers. "But we'll figure it out. Together." As the sun rose higher, painting the warehouse district in gold, they walked hand in hand toward the waiting car. Behind them lay bodies and betrayal and the ruins of everything that came before. Ahead lay uncertainty and risk, and a future they'd have to fight for every single day. But for the first time in longer than she could remember, Lena felt like she was walking toward something instead of running away. And that made all the difference. The news broke within hours. Victor Voss found dead in a warehouse, apparent victim of internal power struggle. Adrian's name was mentioned only as a concerned brother who'd been estranged from his sibling for years. The carefully planted evidence told a story of Victor's own men turning on him, greed and paranoia tearing his organization apart from within. Lena watched the coverage from Adrian's penthouse, the real one, not the safe house, as reporters speculated and politicians offered empty condolences. She saw Senator Carver, the man Adrian had pointed out at the gala, speaking gravely about the tragedy of gang violence. The hypocrisy made her sick. "They're all lying," she said as Adrian came to stand beside her. "Of course they are. That's how this world works." He handed her a cup of coffee. "The truth doesn't matter as much as the story everyone agrees to believe." "And what story are we telling?" "That I'm a legitimate businessman mourning his troubled brother. That I'm committed to continuing my philanthropic work and distancing myself from any unsavory associations." Adrian's smile was thin. "It's all performance, Lena. The question is whether you can stomach watching me perform." She turned to face him. "Can you stomach actually becoming that person? Not just pretending?" "I don't know." His honesty surprised her. "I've been playing a role for so long, I'm not sure I remember who I really am underneath it all." "Then maybe it's time to find out." Before Adrian could respond, Celeste entered without knocking. Her expression was troubled. "We have a situation," she said. "One of Victor's lieutenants survived the warehouse, Marcus Reeves. He's claiming he has information that could bring down your entire operation, documentation of every illegal transaction, recordings of conversations, everything." Adrian's expression went cold. "Where is he?" "In the wind, but he's reached out through intermediaries. He wants a meeting." "It's a trap." "Obviously." Celeste pulled out her tablet and showed them a photo. A wiry man in his 40s with sharp eyes and a cruel mouth. "But if even half of what he claims is true, he could destroy you. The authorities would have everything they need to dismantle your empire and put you away for life." Lena's stomach dropped. "So what do we do?" "We meet with him," Adrian said calmly, "and we find out what he really wants." "That's insane," Lena protested. "He just said it's a trap." "Every meeting is a trap. The trick is springing it on your terms instead of theirs." Adrian looked at Celeste. "Set it up. Somewhere public, lots of witnesses. Make him think I'm scared enough to give him what he wants." "And what do you actually plan to give him?" Adrian's smile was sharp enough to cut. "A choice. Work for me or disappear. Simple as that." The meeting was set for 2 days later at an upscale restaurant in the theater district. Adrian insisted Lena come, saying her presence would make him look less threatening, more like a man trying to negotiate peace rather than deliver violence. "You're using me as a prop again," Lena said as they dressed for dinner. "I'm using every advantage I have. You know this by now." Adrian adjusted his tie in the mirror, then turned to her. "But you don't have to come. I can handle Reeves alone." "And let you walk into danger without me?" "Not a chance." Lena smoothed her dress. Another gift from Adrian's seemingly endless supply of expensive clothing. Besides, I want to see how you work. If we're building something together, I need to understand all of it, not just the parts you think I can handle. Adrian crossed to her and cupped her face. You're sure about this? About us? There's still time to walk away, Lena, to go back to your quiet life and forget any of this happened. There's no going back, you know that. She covered his hands with hers. And I don't want to forget. I want to see where this goes, even if it's dangerous. Especially if it's dangerous. You're either very brave or very foolish. Can't I be both? His laugh was genuine, warm. It transformed his face, made him look younger, less burdened. Lena wished she could make him laugh like that every day. The restaurant was elegant and crowded, full of theatergoers grabbing dinner before shows. Adrian had reserved a private corner booth with good sightlines and 2 exits. His people were scattered throughout the restaurant, Celeste at the bar, 2 men she didn't recognize at separate tables, all of them armed and watching. Marcus Reeves arrived exactly on time. He was smaller in person than his photo suggested, but there was a coiled energy about him that set Lena's teeth on edge. He slid into the booth across from them with a confidence that felt like a threat. Adrian Voss, he said, his voice smooth as oil, and this must be the infamous Lena Cross, the woman who turned a crime lord's head. Mr. Reeves. Adrian's tone was pleasant, but Lena heard the ice beneath it. I understand you have something I want. Want? More like need. Reeves signaled the waiter and ordered an expensive scotch. I have documentation of every illegal operation you've run for the past 5 years. Bank accounts, shell companies, payoffs to officials. Everything. If that information reaches the right people, you're finished. So why haven't you turned it over already? Because I'm a businessman, not an idealist. I don't care about justice or revenge. I care about survival. Reeves leaned back as his drink arrived. Victor promised me a partnership, a chance to run my own territory with his backing. Then you killed him, and suddenly I'm nobody again. So here's my offer. You give me what Victor promised, and this documentation disappears. And if I refuse? Then every news outlet and law enforcement agency in the state gets a copy tomorrow morning. Reeves' smile was reptilian. Your choice. Lena watched Adrian's face, trying to read his next move, but his expression was perfectly neutral, giving nothing away. What territory did Victor promise you? Adrian asked. The waterfront operations. Shipping, imports, the whole corridor. That's worth about $30 million a year. Give or take. Adrian took a sip of his wine, considering. And you think you can run it? That my people will accept you just because I say so? I think they'll accept whoever has the power. And right now I'm holding all the cards. Reeves leaned forward. So do we have a deal? No? The word hung in the air like a gunshot. Reeves's smile faltered. Excuse me? I said no. Adrian set down his wine glass with deliberate care. Here's what's actually going to happen, Mr. Reeves. You're going to give me every copy of that documentation, physical, digital, every backup you've made. And in exchange, I'm going to let you live. Reeves laughed, but it sounded forced. You're bluffing. We're in a public restaurant. You can't touch me here. I don't need to touch you. I just need to make a phone call. Adrian pulled out his phone and showed Reeves the screen. It displayed a video feed of a small apartment. Inside, a woman and 2 children were having dinner, completely unaware they were being watched. That's your family, isn't it? Your ex-wife and kids in Minneapolis? You send them money every month, even though the divorce was messy. Very admirable. Reeves's face went white. You wouldn't. I wouldn't. But you need to understand something. I'm trying to be a better man. Trying to build something that doesn't require blood and fear. But I'm not there yet. And if you force my hand, if you threaten everything I'm working toward, I will protect what's mine. Adrian's voice dropped to something deadly. So here's the real choice, Mr. Reeves. You give me that documentation, you leave this city tonight, and you never come back. Do that, and your family stays safe. Or you try to play hardball with me, and you learn why people who cross me tend to disappear. That's blackmail. No, it's a fact. Adrian leaned forward. I know you think you're smart, that you found some leverage that makes you untouchable, but you're not the first person to try this, and you won't be the last. The difference is, I'm giving you a way out. Victor would have just killed you and your family to make a point. I'm offering you a chance to walk away. Reeves looked between Adrian and Lena, his confidence crumbling. Lena saw the moment he realized he'd miscalculated, that the man across from him was far more dangerous than he'd anticipated. "How do I know you'll keep your word?" Reeves asked, his voice shaking slightly. "You don't. But ask yourself, if I wanted you dead, would we be having this conversation? Or would you have disappeared the moment you reached out for a meeting?" Adrian pulled a business card from his pocket and slid it across the table. "That's a bank account in the Caymans. There's $50,000 in it, enough for you to start over somewhere else. Take it, give me what I want, and we never see each other again." Reeves stared at the card like it might bite him. "And if I don't? Then we find out if your information is as valuable as you think, and your family finds out what it's like to live under my protection." Adrian's smile was cold. "Which really means they live in a cage of my design until you're no longer a threat." The silence stretched between them, heavy, with unspoken violence. Lena's heart was hammering, but she kept her expression neutral. This was Adrian's world, the threats, the calculations, the careful balance between mercy and cruelty. Finally, Reeves reached into his jacket. Adrian's people tensed, hands moving toward weapons. But Reeves pulled out a small USB drive and set it on the table. "Everything's on there," he said quietly. "Bank records, recordings, names, all of it." Adrian picked up the drive and pocketed it. "Smart choice. There's a car waiting outside to take you to the airport. My people will escort you to make sure you actually leave. After that, you're on your own." Reeves stood on shaky legs. He looked at Lena, and something like pity flickered in his eyes. "He'll destroy you too, you know. Everyone who gets close to him ends up broken or dead. You think you're different, but you're not." "Maybe," Lena said evenly. "Or maybe I'm exactly what he needs to stop destroying people." Reeves shook his head and walked away. They watched him leave the restaurant, flanked by two of Adrian's men. Lena let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. "Did you really have people watching his family?" "Yes." "Would you have hurt them?" Adrian was quiet for a long moment. "A month ago, I would have said yes without hesitation. Now?" He looked at her. "I don't know. I wanted him to believe I would. That was enough. But the threat was real." "The threat is always real, Lena. That's the point." Adrian signaled for the check. "But I meant what I said. I'm trying to be better, trying to find a way to protect what I've built without becoming the monster my father was. It's just harder than I thought." They left the restaurant and walked out into the cool night air. The theater crowd was streaming past, laughing and chatting about shows they'd seen. Normal people living normal lives, completely unaware of the violence that swirled just beneath their city's surface. "I need to ask you something," Lena said as they reached the car. "And I need you to be honest." "Okay. If I hadn't been here tonight, if Reeves had refused your offer, would you have killed him?" Adrian looked at her for a long moment. "Probably. Because letting him live would have meant constant danger, constant looking over my shoulder. And I'm tired of living like that. But you let him go. Because you were watching. Because I want to be the man you see when you look at me, not the man I actually am." His voice was raw. "Is that honest enough?" Lena reached up and kissed him, tasting the truth in his words. When she pulled back, his eyes were dark with something that looked like hope. "It's a start," she said. Over the next 2 weeks, Adrian began the work of transforming his empire. Operations that couldn't be made legitimate were quietly shut down and the assets liquidated. People who'd worked for him for years were given generous severance packages and encouraged to find new employment. Some left grateful. Others had to be convinced more forcefully. Lena watched it all, learning the mechanics of power. She sat in on meetings where Adrian negotiated with politicians and business leaders, watched him navigate the delicate balance between his criminal past and the legitimate future he was trying to build. And slowly, she began to see where she fit in all of this. "You're good with people," Adrian said one night as they reviewed plans for a new real estate development. "They trust you in a way they'll never trust me." "Because I'm not you. I didn't build an empire on fear." "Exactly. Which is why I want you to handle the community outreach for this project." He slid a folder across his desk. We're redeveloping the warehouse district, 20 buildings converted to mixed-use, affordable housing, small business spaces, community centers. But the neighborhood is wary. They think I'm just another rich developer coming in to gentrify and push them out. Lena opened the folder and scanned the plans. They were impressive. Thoughtful design, genuine consideration for the existing community, affordable units set aside for current residents. This is actually good work. Don't sound so surprised. I'm not. I'm just... She looked up at him. This is who you should have been all along. Not the crime lord, not the monster. This. Maybe. Or maybe I needed to be the monster first to have the resources to do this. Adrian came around the desk and pulled her to her feet. The point is, I can't do it alone. I need someone people will actually listen to. Someone who understands what it's like to struggle, to be invisible. You want me to be the face of your redemption. I want you to be my partner in all of this. He held her gaze. What do you say? Lena thought about the quiet designer she'd been just weeks ago. That woman felt like a stranger now, someone who existed in a different lifetime. The woman she was becoming, harder, stronger, more willing to walk into danger, was still frightening, but also exhilarating. Okay, she said, but I do this my way. No manipulation, no threats, just honest conversation with people who deserve honesty. Deal. The community meetings were brutal. Residents who'd lived through decades of empty promises and broken development deals were understandably skeptical. They shouted questions at Lena, demanded guarantees, called Adrian every name in the book. But she didn't flinch. She answered every question, addressed every concern, admitted when she didn't know something. And slowly, grudgingly, they began to listen. You're different from what I expected, one elderly woman said after a particularly heated meeting. Most developers send their lawyers or PR people. You actually seem to care. I do care, Lena said. I grew up not far from here. I know what it's like to watch your neighborhood get swallowed up by people who don't give a damn about the community. This project, it's not perfect, and it won't solve everything, but it's trying to be better. The woman studied her face. And Adrian Voss? Is he trying to be better too? Yes, I think he is. You love him. It wasn't a question, but Lena answered anyway. I do. Then I hope you're right about him, because if you're not, a lot of people are going to get hurt. The woman patted Lena's hand. But I'll give him a chance. For you. It was a small victory, but it felt enormous. Lena reported back to Adrian that night, exhausted but hopeful. They're willing to work with us, she said, but they want oversight, a community board that has real power to approve or reject changes to the plan. That could slow everything down. It could also make the project actually work. These people know their neighborhood better than we do. If we listen to them, really listen, we might build something that actually helps instead of just making you look good. Adrian was quiet for a moment, then nodded. Okay. Set up the board, give them real authority, and keep me updated. You're not going to fight me on this? Why would I? You're right. He pulled her close. This is your project now. I'm just the money behind it. But the peace couldn't last. 3 days later, Celeste burst into Adrian's office, where he and Lena were reviewing building designs. We have a problem, she said, her face pale. A big one. What is it? Adrian was already on his feet. Victor's documentation, the one Reeves gave us. Celeste pulled up a video on her tablet. It wasn't the only copy. The video showed a press conference, federal prosecutors standing at a podium, grim-faced. Behind them were charts and documents, the same information Reeves had handed over. Earlier today, this office received extensive documentation detailing a criminal enterprise run by Adrian Voss, the lead prosecutor said. We're announcing a full investigation into Mr. Voss's business dealings, both legitimate and otherwise. If the allegations prove true, we'll be filing charges for racketeering, money laundering, conspiracy, and murder. Lena felt the floor drop out from under her. How is this possible? You got the documentation from Reeves. He must have made copies before the meeting. Insurance in case I killed him. Adrian's voice was eerily calm. Smart man. Smarter than I gave him credit for. What do we do? Lena asked. We prepare for war. Adrian turned to Celeste. Get our lawyers on this immediately. I want a full audit of every business, every account, every connection. If there's anything illegal, I want it gone before they can find it. And find Reeves. I want to know who he gave that information to and when. Already on it. Celeste hesitated. Adrian, this is bad. Even with the best lawyers, if half of what's in that documentation is accurate, I know. He cut her off. But we're not rolling over. We fight this. All of it. Over the next 48 hours, Adrian's world began to crumble. Federal agents seized documents from his offices. Assets were frozen pending investigation. Politicians who'd been in his pocket for years suddenly couldn't remember his name. The empire he'd spent 15 years building was being dismantled piece by piece, and through it all, Lena stayed by his side. You should leave, Adrian said on the second night, his voice hoarse from hours of meetings with lawyers. Before they connect you to all of this. Before your name gets dragged through the mud with mine. I'm not leaving. Lena, they're going to charge me. Best case scenario, I'm looking at decades in prison. Worst case, he didn't finish the sentence. There's no future here. Not for us. Then we'll build one anyway. She took his hands, feeling how cold they were. You said we're partners. That means I don't run when things get hard. This isn't hard. This is impossible. So was surviving Victor. So was walking away from Ava. So was falling in love with you. Lena squeezed his hands. I'm not going anywhere, Adrian. Whatever comes next, we face it together. He pulled her into his arms and held her like she was the only solid thing in a world coming apart. And maybe she was. The next morning brought news that changed everything. Celeste showed up with her tablet, her expression carefully neutral. Reeves is dead, she said. Car accident last night. Drove off a bridge in heavy rain. Adrian's eyes narrowed. Accident? That's what the police report says. But the car's brake lines were cut. Celeste pulled up crime scene photos. And there was a note in his pocket, a confession. She showed them the note. In Reeves's handwriting, a full confession. How he'd fabricated evidence against Adrian out of jealousy and revenge. How he'd fed information to the prosecutors knowing it was lies. How he couldn't live with the guilt anymore. This is convenient, Lena said slowly. Too convenient. The prosecutors are already backpedaling, Celeste continued. Without Reeves to authenticate the documents, and with this confession, their case is falling apart. They're talking about dropping the investigation. Adrian stared at the photos for a long moment. Who did this? Does it matter? Celeste's voice was soft. You're free. The empire survives. It matters. Adrian looked at her and Lena saw something dark in his expression. Because I didn't order it, which means someone acted without my approval. Someone decided Reeves needed to die and made it happen. Maybe it really was an accident, Lena offered, but she didn't believe it. Neither did Adrian. Find out who, he told Celeste. I want names by tonight. But the answer came faster than expected. That afternoon, a man Lena had never seen before entered Adrian's office. He was older, gray-haired, with the kind of face that had seen too much violence. Mr. Voss, he said with a slight bow, I wanted to inform you personally. The Reeves situation has been handled. I didn't authorize that, Adrian said coldly. I know. But with respect, sir, you've been distracted lately, making decisions that put the organization at risk. The man's gaze flicked to Lena. Some of us felt it necessary to protect your interests, even from yourself. You had no right. We had every right. We've served this organization for years. We've killed for it, bled for it, sacrificed everything. And we're not about to let it fall apart because you've developed a conscience. The man's voice hardened. This is what we do, Mr. Voss. We eliminate threats. Reeves was a threat. Now he's not. Adrian stood slowly, his entire body radiating danger. Get out. Sir, get out before I kill you myself. The man left, but his presence lingered like smoke. Adrian slumped back in his chair, looking more exhausted than Lena had ever seen him. This is what I've created, he said quietly. An organization that operates on violence and fear. Even when I try to change it, even when I try to be better, the machine keeps running, keeps killing. Lena knelt beside his chair. Then we dismantle the machine, not piece by piece, all of it. Everything that can't be made legitimate, we shut it down. Everyone who can't adapt to the new direction, we let go. That's half my organization. Maybe more. Then that's what it takes. She took his face in her hands. You can't build something new on a foundation of bodies, Adrian. You have to burn it all down and start over. People will die. The power vacuum will be chaos. Maybe. Or maybe other people like you, people trying to be better, will step in and build something different. Lena held his gaze. But you can't control that. All you can control is what you do next. Adrian closed his eyes. When he opened them again, there was something like resolve in their depths. Okay, he said. We burn it down. All of it. Over the next week, Adrian systematically dismantled the criminal empire his father had built and he'd maintained. Operations were sold or shut down. People were paid off or pushed out. Some went quietly. Others had to be convinced more forcefully. And through it all, the violence he'd tried to escape kept finding him, kept demanding its pound of flesh. But he didn't back down. With Lena beside him, he kept pushing forward, kept making the hard choices. And slowly, painfully, a new shape began to emerge from the ruins. The legitimate businesses stayed. The real estate development moved forward. The charities expanded. And the man who'd once ruled through fear began learning to lead through something else entirely. It wasn't redemption, not yet. Maybe not ever. But it was a start. The call came at 3 a.m, shattering the fragile peace they'd built. Lena woke to Adrian already on his feet, phone pressed to his ear, his face carved from stone in the dim light. When? He demanded. A pause. How many? Another pause, longer this time. I'm on my way. He ended the call and started pulling on clothes with mechanical precision. Lena sat up, her heart already racing. What happened? The old guard. The men I've been pushing out. Adrian's voice was tight with fury. They've taken the casino. They're holding Celeste and 12 other people hostage. What do they want? Me. They want me to come alone, unarmed, and negotiate the return of the organization to what it was. He strapped on a shoulder holster, checked his gun. If I don't show up in 2 hours, they start executing hostages. Lena threw off the covers. Then we go together. Absolutely not. Adrian, no. He turned to face her, and the fear in his eyes stopped her cold. This is different from Victor. This is people who know exactly how I think, how I operate. They'll be ready for anything I try, and if you're there, they'll use you against me. So you're just going to walk in there alone? Let them kill you? I'm going to end this. Once and for all. Adrian crossed to her and pulled her into a fierce embrace. If something happens to me, Celeste has instructions. You'll be taken care of. The legitimate businesses, the real estate project, all of it passes to you. I don't want your money. I want you alive. I know. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips, like he was memorizing her. But sometimes we don't get what we want. Sometimes we just do what's necessary and hope we survive it. Then let me help, please. There has to be another way. Adrian pulled back and looked at her for a long moment. Then something shifted in his expression, calculation replacing resignation. Maybe there is, he said slowly, but it's dangerous, and it requires you to trust me completely. I do trust you. Even when I tell you to do something that feels wrong? Lena hesitated, then nodded. Tell me what you need. 20 minutes later, they were in the car racing toward the casino. Adrian had made a series of rapid-fire calls, setting pieces in motion that Lena didn't fully understand. But she saw the way his mind worked, the chess player anticipating moves 3 steps ahead. The leader is a man named Dmitri, Adrian explained as they drove. He's been with the organization since my father's time, loyal, ruthless, and smart enough to know that if I succeed in going legitimate, men like him become obsolete. So this is about survival. It's always about survival. Adrian took a corner too fast, tires squealing. Dmitri knows I won't risk Celeste's life. He's counting on me to negotiate, to give him what he wants to save her. But he's made one critical mistake. What's that? He thinks I care more about the people he's holding than I do about ending this war. Adrian's smile was cold. He's wrong. They pulled up to the casino's back entrance. The building was dark except for lights in the main gaming floor. Adrian killed the engine and turned to Lena. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk in through the front entrance in exactly 10 minutes. You're going to tell Dmitri that I sent you to negotiate in my place because I don't trust him not to kill me on sight. He'll never believe that. He will, because it's partially true. I don't trust him. And you showing up instead of me will throw him off balance, make him recalculate. Adrian handed her a small earpiece. I'll be listening to everything. When I give you the signal, you get down and cover your head. Don't hesitate, don't think, just do it. What signal? You'll know it when you hear it. He touched her face gently. I'm sorry for putting you in danger again, but you're the only person I trust to do this. And what will you be doing while I'm negotiating? Ending this my way. He kissed her one more time, hard and desperate. 10 minutes. And Lena, whatever happens, whatever you see, remember that I love you. That matters, even if nothing else does. Before she could respond, he was gone, disappearing into the shadows like smoke. Lena sat in the car, counting down the seconds, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. At exactly 10 minutes, she walked through the casino's ornate front entrance. The gaming floor was eerily quiet, all the bright lights and cheerful music silenced. Dmitri stood at the center of the room, flanked by 6 armed men. Celeste and the other hostages knelt in a line before him, hands bound, faces pale with fear. Dmitri was older than Lena expected, late 50s with silver hair and a face that might have been handsome before violence carved it into something harder. He watched her approach with narrowed eyes. And who are you? He demanded. Lena Cross. Adrian sent me to negotiate. Dmitri laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the empty casino. He sends his whore to do his fighting? How far the great Adrian Voss has fallen! Lena forced herself not to react to the slur. He doesn't trust you not to kill him the moment he walks through the door, so he sent me instead. I speak for him. You speak for him? Dmitri walked closer, studying her face. Tell me, Miss Cross, did he explain what happens if I don't like what you have to say? You start killing hostages. I understand the stakes. But do you? Do you understand that these people, he gestured to the kneeling figures, are nothing to me? Tools to be used and discarded. The only reason they're still breathing is because they're useful. The moment they stop being useful, they die. I understand. Lena's voice was steadier than she felt. So let's talk about what you want. What I want is simple. Adrian stands down. He returns control of the organization to those of us who built it. We go back to doing what we do best, making money, maintaining power, surviving. All this redemption nonsense ends. And if he agrees, then we let him keep his legitimate businesses, his real estate projects, his charities. He can play at being a good man all he wants, as long as he stays out of our way. Dmitri smiled. It's a generous offer, considering I could just kill him and take everything. You could try, Lena said quietly. But Adrian didn't build this empire by being easy to kill. No, he built it by being ruthless, by doing whatever it took to win. But that man is gone, replaced by someone who hesitates, who feels guilt, who tries to save everyone. Dmitri's expression hardened. That man will get himself killed. I'm just accelerating the inevitable. Through the earpiece, Lena heard Adrian's voice, barely a whisper. Keep him talking, 30 seconds. What about the people who work for you? Lena asked. The ones who've been with Adrian for years? You really think they'll just switch sides because you say so? The ones who matter already have. The rest, Dmitri shrugged. They'll fall in line or fall away. That's how power works, Miss Cross. People follow strength, not sentiment. Is that why you're hiding behind hostages? Because you're so strong? Dmitri's face darkened. Careful. Your usefulness only extends so far. I'm just trying to understand. You talk about strength, about being ruthless, but you couldn't take Adrian in a fair fight. So you grabbed innocent people and threatened to kill them. That's not strength. That's cowardice. You have no idea what you're talking about. Don't I? I've seen real strength. I've watched Adrian face down his own brother, knowing it might cost him everything. I've seen him make impossible choices and live with the consequences. That's strength. This? She gestured around the room. This is just fear dressed up as power. Dmitri raised his gun and pointed it at her head. One more word, and I'll show you what fear really looks like. Through the earpiece, now! Lena dropped to the floor. The lights went out. In the darkness, gunfire erupted. sharp cracks that lit up the casino in strobing flashes. Lena pressed her face to the carpet, covering her head as Adrian had instructed, as chaos exploded around her. She heard shouting, screaming, the heavy thud of bodies hitting the floor. The firefight lasted maybe 30 seconds, but it felt like hours. When the lights came back on, the casino floor was transformed into a battlefield. Dimitri's men were down, disarmed by Adrian's people who'd been hiding in the shadows. Dimitri himself was on his knees, Adrian's gun pressed to the back of his head. The hostages were being cut free by men in tactical gear Lena didn't recognize. Adrian's eyes found hers across the room. "Are you hurt?" "No." Lena got to her feet on shaking legs. "I'm okay." "Good." He turned his attention back to Dimitri. "Stand up." Dimitri rose slowly, his face twisted with rage and defeat. "You won't kill me. Not in front of all these witnesses. Not when you're trying so hard to be better." "You're right," Adrian said. I won't kill you, but I'm going to give you the same choice I've given everyone else. Walk away or face the consequences." "There's nowhere to walk to. You've destroyed the organization, gutted it. Without it, men like me have nothing." "Then find something new. Learn a different way to survive that doesn't require violence and fear." Adrian's voice was hard. "Or don't. I don't care anymore. But if you stay in this city, if you try to rebuild what I've torn down, I will end you. Not because I'm a criminal or a killer, but because I'm protecting something that matters more than power." He gestured to his men. "Get him out of here. Put him on a plane to anywhere that's not here. After that, he's on his own." They dragged Dimitri away, still cursing and threatening. Adrian watched him go with an expression that might have been regret or relief or both. Then he crossed to Lena and pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. "I'm sorry," he whispered into her hair. "I'm so sorry for putting you through that. It worked. That's what matters." "It almost didn't. If they'd decided to shoot you instead of listening, if Dimitri had been faster—" His voice broke. "I can't lose you, Lena. You're the only good thing in this nightmare I've created." She pulled back to look at him. "Then let's create something better, together, starting now." The cleanup took hours. Police arrived, drawn by reports of gunfire, but Adrian's lawyers were already spinning the story. A hostage situation resolved by private security, all licensed and legal. Dimitri's men who survived were turned over to authorities with carefully curated evidence of their crimes. By morning, the official story was set, and Adrian Voss had once again escaped prosecution. But something had fundamentally changed. As Lena watched Adrian navigate the aftermath, she saw the exhaustion in every line of his body. The weight of maintaining his empire, even in its diminished form, was crushing him. "It's time," she said as dawn broke over the city. Adrian looked at her, understanding immediately what she meant. "You're sure?" "I'm sure. This—" She gestured to the casino, to the remnants of his criminal past. "It will never fully go away as long as you're still connected to it. Every day you keep it is another day someone can use it against you. The casino is worth $100 million, maybe more. Then sell it. Use the money for this real estate project, for the charities, for building something that doesn't come with bodies buried in the foundation." Lena took his hands. "Let it go, Adrian. All of it. Become the man you're trying to be instead of the one you were." He looked around the casino, the place his father had built, that he'd inherited, that had been both his throne and his prison. Then he pulled out his phone and called Celeste. "Sell it," he said when she answered. "The casino, the building, everything. I want it gone by the end of the month." Celeste's voice crackled through the speaker. "Are you certain? That's your last major asset from the old organization." "I'm certain. It's time to burn the past down and see what rises from the ashes." He ended the call and turned to Lena. "Done. It's done." "How do you feel?" "Terrified, relieved, free." Adrian laughed shakily. "I don't know what comes next. For the first time in my life, I have no idea what I'm building toward." "Good. Neither do I. We'll figure it out together." The sale of the casino happened fast. A hotel conglomerate bought it for cash, planning to convert it into a legitimate entertainment venue. Adrian used the money to fund the warehouse district project and establish a foundation focused on helping people transition out of criminal life, job training, education, housing assistance. Things he wished had existed for men like Dimitri, like himself. But closure didn't come easy. 3 weeks after the casino sale, Lena got a call from an unknown number. Hello? Lena, it's me. Ava. Lena's hand tightened on the phone. She hadn't spoken to her sister since the warehouse, hadn't wanted to, but hearing Ava's voice now brought all the pain rushing back. What do you want? I wanted to say thank you. Adrian's people told me what you did, how you convinced him to let me live, to protect me even after everything. Ava's voice cracked. I don't deserve it. I know I don't. But I'm grateful. You're right, you don't deserve it. I know, and I know you probably never want to see me again, but I wanted you to know. I'm getting help, real help, therapy, medication, all of it. Adrian's foundation connected me with resources, and I'm actually trying to do better. Lena felt tears prick her eyes. That's good. I'm glad. Are you happy? With him? Yes, I am. Then I'm glad too. You deserve happiness, Lena. You always did. I was just too selfish to see it. Ava took a shaky breath. I love you. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I wanted you to know. I love you too, Lena whispered, but I can't have you in my life. Not now. Maybe not ever. I hope you understand. I do. And I'm sorry for all of it. The call ended. Lena sat holding the phone, crying for the sister she'd lost and the relationship that could never be repaired. Adrian found her like that and held her without asking questions, just offering silent comfort until the tears ran dry. She called, Lena finally explained. She's getting help. I know, the foundation's been tracking her progress. She's doing well, considering. Will she be okay? I think so. She's made mistakes, but she's also shown she can change. Given the right support, the right resources? Adrian shrugged. People can surprise you. Speaking from experience? Every day? He pulled her closer. 6 months ago, I was a criminal who'd kill without hesitation. Now I'm running a foundation and building affordable housing. If I can change, anyone can. You make it sound easy. It's not. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. Every day I wake up and have to choose to be better than I was. And some days I fail, but I keep trying. He kissed the top of her head. Because you make me want to be worth loving. Over the next year, Adrian's transformation continued. The last of his criminal operations were shut down or legitimized. The warehouse district project broke ground with Lena overseeing community outreach and Adrian handling the business side. The foundation grew, helping hundreds of people leave criminal life behind. There were setbacks. Former associates who refused to let go. Politicians who tried to use his past against him. Media exposés that dredged up old crimes. But through it all, Adrian and Lena held steady, building something real from the ruins of everything that came before. The community center in the warehouse district opened on a cold November morning. Lena stood on the stage looking out at a crowd of neighborhood residents, local officials, and reporters. Adrian stood beside her, his hand warm in hers. A year ago, Lena began, this neighborhood was promised another development that would push people out, tear down their homes, destroy their community. Today, we're opening something different, a space built with community input, designed to serve the people who already live here, funded by someone who understands what it's like to need a second chance. She looked at Adrian, who squeezed her hand encouragingly. This center isn't just a building, it's a promise, a commitment to doing better, being better, building better. And it's proof that change is possible, for neighborhoods, for people, for all of us trying to leave our mistakes behind and create something worth keeping. The applause was genuine, warm. After the ceremony, as Adrian and Lena toured the facility with residents, she saw the way people looked at him, not with fear anymore, but with cautious respect, hope even. You did it, she whispered as they stood in the center's bright, airy lobby. You actually became someone different. We did it, Adrian corrected. I never would have made it this far without you. So what comes next? He pulled a small box from his pocket and dropped to one knee. The lobby went silent, everyone turning to watch. What comes next? Adrian said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes, is the rest of our lives. Building things that matter, helping people who need it, creating a legacy that isn't built on fear or violence or all the things I used to think made me strong. He opened the box, revealing a simple diamond ring. "Lena Cross, you walked into my nightmare and showed me a way out. You stood beside me when you should have run. You believed I could be better, even when I didn't believe it myself. Will you marry me?" Lena looked down at him. This beautiful broken man who'd chosen love over power, redemption over revenge, hope over the darkness that had defined his whole life. And she realized she'd never been more certain of anything. "Yes," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, of course, yes." He slid the ring onto her finger and stood, pulling her into a kiss as the crowd around them erupted in cheers. And for the first time since she'd opened that envelope with the brass key, Lena felt completely, utterly safe. The wedding was small, just close friends, a few family members, and the people who'd helped them build their new life. Celeste stood as Lena's maid of honor, having transformed from Adrian's cold enforcer into a trusted friend. They held the ceremony in Adrian's mother's house, the suburban refuge that had sheltered them through the worst of the war. As they exchanged vows, Lena thought about everything that had led them here, the trap she'd walked into, the sister who'd betrayed her, the violence and fear and impossible choices. And somehow, impossibly, it had all led to this moment, to a man who loved her enough to burn his whole world down and build something better. "I promise to choose you," Adrian said, his voice thick with emotion. "Every day, over everything else, over power, over pride, over the darkness that used to define me. I promise to be the man you see when you look at me, not the monster I used to be. And I promise to build a life with you that's worth all the pain it took to get here." Lena's vows were simpler. "I promise to stand with you, in the light and the darkness, through the mistakes and the victories, for all the days we have. You walked through hell to save me. Now let's walk into something better, together." The kiss that sealed their marriage tasted like promise and possibility and hard-won peace. At the reception, as they danced to music that filled the little house with joy, Adrian pulled Lena close and whispered in her ear, "Thank you." "For what?" "For seeing me. Not the empire or the reputation or the fear, just me." He rested his forehead against hers. "For believing I could be more than what I was. You were always more. You just needed someone to remind you." They swayed together as the song played on, two people who'd found each other in the darkest possible circumstances and chosen to build something light from the wreckage. 5 years later, Lena stood on the roof of the warehouse district's newest building, a school funded by Adrian's foundation. Below, children played in a park that had been a vacant lot when they started. Around them, the neighborhood thrived. Small businesses, affordable housing, community spaces where people gathered and built lives. Adrian joined her at the railing, sliding an arm around her waist. "Hard to believe this was all rubble when we started," he said. "Hard to believe a lot of things." Lena leaned into him. "That you'd give up everything for this. That I'd find my purpose helping you build it. That we'd actually make it work. Any regrets?" She thought about her old life, the quiet, invisible existence she'd led before that brass key arrived. It had been safe, stable, predictable, everything her life now wasn't. "Not one," she said honestly. "You?" "Only that I didn't find you sooner, that I wasted so many years being the man my father wanted instead of the one I could have been." Adrian turned her to face him. "But we're here now. That's what matters." Their foundation had helped over 1,000 people transition out of criminal life. The real estate projects had created hundreds of affordable housing units. The community centers provided education, job training, and support to neighborhoods that had been forgotten by everyone else. It wasn't redemption, exactly. The bodies buried in Adrian's past would never go away, never be balanced by the good they did now. But it was something. It was change. It was proof that even the darkest parts of ourselves could be transformed into something that helped instead of hurt. "I got a letter from Ava yesterday," Lena said quietly. Adrian's arm tightened around her. "And?" "She's been sober for 3 years now, working at a nonprofit that helps trafficking survivors. She's doing okay." "Do you want to see her?" Lena had thought about this a lot over the years. The sister she'd lost. The relationship that could never be what it was. And she'd realized something important. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It didn't mean letting someone back into your life to hurt you again. Sometimes it just meant accepting that people were flawed and broken and doing their best with the pieces they had left. Maybe someday, she said, when it doesn't hurt so much to think about what she did. When I can look at her and see the person she's becoming instead of the one who betrayed me. That's fair. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the sunset paint the city in shades of gold and crimson. Below, life continued, people going home to families, children laughing in the park, shopkeepers closing up for the night. Normal, beautiful, mundane life. This was what they'd fought for. Not power or wealth or reputation, but the simple right to build something good in a world that had tried to destroy them both. I love you, Lena said. I know I tell you that every day, but I need you to know I would do it all again. Walk into that casino, face down Victor, survive the war. All of it. Because it led me to you. Adrian kissed her softly, tenderly, like she was something precious he'd almost lost and was determined to protect. I love you too, more than I thought I was capable of loving anything. They headed down from the roof together, hand in hand, as the stars began to emerge in the darkening sky. There would be more challenges ahead. There always were. More people who remembered who Adrian used to be. More obstacles to the future they were building. More days when the past threatened to swallow the present whole, but they would face it together. The way they'd faced everything since that night in the warehouse when Adrian had asked her to trust him one more time. Two damaged souls who'd found each other in the darkness and chose to build something light from the ashes of their broken pasts. A crime lord who'd learned that real power came from helping instead of hurting, and a woman who'd discovered that being invisible was just another form of hiding, and she was done hiding forever. They drove home through streets that had become familiar, past buildings they'd helped restore, through neighborhoods they'd helped rebuild. And as they pulled up to the house, not the penthouse, not the casino, but the modest home they'd bought together in a neighborhood full of families and hope, Lena felt something she never thought she'd feel again. Peace. Not the absence of conflict, but the presence of something worth fighting for. Not the end of their story, but the beginning of the life they'd choose every single day, no matter how hard the choosing became. Adrian helped her out of the car, and they walked to the door together, their shadows merging in the golden porch light. Inside, warmth waited. Home waited. The future they'd built from blood and betrayal and the stubborn refusal to let darkness win. Behind them, the city glittered with a million lights, each one a life, a story, a chance at redemption or ruin. And somewhere in that vast constellation of choices and consequences, Ava was building her own new life. Victor's empire had been carved up and distributed. The old guard had scattered to the winds. And Adrian Voss, the man who'd once ruled through fear, now led through something infinitely more powerful. Hope. They stepped inside and closed the door on the past, choosing the future one more time. Together. Always together. Because in a world built on betrayal and violence, they'd found something real. Something that didn't require lies or manipulation or fear to sustain it. Something as simple and radical as two broken people choosing to heal together instead of bleeding alone. And that was worth more than any empire. That was worth everything.